Chapter 10. Realize your action plan. It's better to be boldly decisive and risk being wrong than to agonize at length and be right too late. By Marilyn Moats Kennedy. Recall what you were thinking when you decided to read this book. Now that you've read this far, is it realistic to say that some of the issues we've touched on are unpleasant to ponder? Were all the questions asked along the way intuitive? If many of the questions weren't intuitive, how could the answers be intuitive? And if law were intuitive, reasonable people wouldn't need lawyers. Since experience veers outside the realm of intuition and logic, laws do likewise, and lawyers become indispensable. At this point, it's clear that a DIY approach would be a minefield. Let's review what you've accomplished so far. In Part A, you calibrated your thoughts to honestly assess your relationships with yourself, your family, your friends and coworkers, and society, its laws and the personhood of lawyers. In Part B, you did likewise with your views on money, including how megatrends in your lifetime could scramble your nest egg. It became clear that you are unique, and so should the advice you implement. In Part C, you initiated action. In Chapter 8, you resolve to apply your power while you have it, beginning with determining your season of life. Consulting an elder law attorney for seasons summer, autumn, and winter, and compiling your vital information. This tested your mettle, didn't it? Aren't you glad you finished it? If you completed those steps, then you achieved KYL Bronze. In Chapter 9, you sorted through your relationships with money, professionals, and loved ones, ultimately assigning their proper roles for your Endgame's KYL team. For simplicity, we refer to the licensed professionals on your team as your BOD. Brutal honesty tested your mettle further. Again, you're sensing progress, aren't you? If you've completed these steps, you've achieved KYL Silver. Did you realize if you stop right now, you still have accomplished more in a few hours than most people ever accomplish towards a rational plan for their endgame? That tiny minority of people who have accomplished as much as you did so over the course of months, possibly years. You've had to invest only a few hours. Where nobody knows what tomorrow will bring, the value of speed is inestimable. The toughest decisions are behind you, but you're not finished. Now it's time to go for the gold, the KYL gold, where you realize relief, confidence, and control by following your KYL personal action plan. My gift to you after you complete the reflection questions from every chapter in the online personal assessment. Before reading on, set aside 20 uninterrupted minutes and complete your online personal assessment. keepyourlife.org/ch10. Your KYL Personal Action Plan. Chapter by chapter, you've walked through many, certainly not all, of the kinds of questions you need to face. Hard questions for hard times. When one of those situations you and your loved ones had preferred not to talk about rocks your world, relationships, perhaps already strained, distant, abrasive even, collide. Together we collected your top-of-mind thoughts, identified your challenges, and articulated your unique extenuating circumstances. Your responses will solidify as you work with your KYL team. Life has too many twists and turns to be able to plan for everything. You prepare for the most likely issues to come up. For the less likely issues, you consider how severe the consequences might be if they occur. Your KYL personal action responds to your concerns, outlining your priorities with a timeline. It is not legal, tax, investment, or insurance advice. Start here. Unless your season of life already pointed you to an elder law attorney, begin with your KYL team leader. Give your KYL team leader a copy of your KYL personal action plan. Upload your compilation of records into your leader's collaborative planning tool. Your KYL team leader will paint a picture of your now. Subsequent visits will walk you through each of your priorities, from highest to lowest. As you go, you'll compile questions for your BOD. Your KYL team leader will coordinate your visits with your BOD members. Being incredibly organized, those meetings will be focused and efficient, as in less money leaving your wallet. One of the first BOD members contacted will be your attorney. Armed with your big picture, concerns, and desires, your attorney will build your legal framework around which your resources will be structured. For example, if your situation demands a trust, then certain assets will need to be titled to that trust. There's no sense in opening accounts or establishing policies or other contracts to then discover you need to retitle it all. As you begin to implement your attorney's advice, you and your KYL team leader will promptly consult your accountant. Tax code is dynamic, unintuitive, and unforgiving. The remaining sequence totally depends on your unique situation. Your KYL team leader will keep you on track and structure your resources in alignment with the advice from your attorney and accountant. Having gotten the present in order, your KYL team leader will help you project what-if scenarios and their likely consequences. Seeing those potential consequences focuses your follow-on questions for your BOD. Notice there are no cookie-cutter, do this, don't do that, pseudo-commandments. Everything and everyone changes. As in sports, rules change, teammates change, and opponents change. You want as much flexibility and control as possible. Only a timeless, principled process with professionals focused on your best interest can stay on top of that. You can choose your professionals, but loved ones are loved ones. As you'd expect with professionals, scheduling focused meetings with your BOD members is straightforward. The more common challenge is scheduling time with the loved one members of your KYL team. These are conversations that your loved ones aren't paid for having, at least not now. Their compensation will be avoided pain in the future. You might have to reconsider your selections. I'm too busy translates to I don't care enough. Ouch. If you were T-boned on the way home from work and you were on life support in the intensive care unit, your loved ones would not be too busy to rush to the hospital. Except they would arrive powerless. Your spouse would be just as powerless as your neighbor. What you are scheduling with them is time to equip them, so should that awful situation occur, they would arrive with the powers you legally granted. Having expressed the urgency like that, if they continue to stall, move on. That's right, stay on schedule and find someone else. And when you do, you can be sure that will get their attention. Keep in mind, you're just like Congress. What you make legal today, you can change tomorrow. If your first choice comes around, then they can back up their sincerity by paying the bill for the change. It's true you can grant powers without the agent or successor trustee or personal representative even knowing at the time you've done it. But even an 11-year-old scout doesn't earn a first aid merit badge without practice in mock situations. Have the conversation, first one-on-one, then with a professional. Own your solutions. By now, you know your legal framework, your personal goals, your interpersonal boundaries, your immediate and long-term tax considerations, and all the other informed assumptions you've defined. Using a Build Your Dream House analogy, you have your plan spec'd and your plot selected. You're ready to buy that plot and fund the construction. Is this a cheap endeavor? No way. Nor should it be. It's going to be your dream house. You envisioned it and enlisted the requisite experience to make it viable. Are you committed? Of course. What would happen if you were to bail as the construction crew was setting the roof trusses? But you would never do that. Your integrity, diligence, and persistence are good but insufficient reasons. The number one reason you stay committed is that it's your baby. You envisioned it. You rolled up your sleeves to create it. You own it. You tell your architect your budget, what you want, like, and dislike. Then the architect uses an architectural design tool to work through everything from building codes to materials availability, labor, cost, and schedule. Your architect considers the risks of your location: earthquakes, hurricanes, blizzards, wildfires, floods. For your house to withstand the storm, you must build the house before the storm arrives. Your KYL team leader is your chief architect for your endgame. That pro will have a collaborative tool to co-create your plan. Only you know what you want for the rest of your life. Keeping it that way before the storms of life strike demands your direct involvement while you have the power. You choose a KYL team leader whose toolbox is big enough to efficiently and effectively support whatever design meets your purpose and budget, so you can feel full satisfaction with what you own.